And joining me now is City Council member Ulrich, who represents the 32nd District, which covers parts of Queens. A Republican, Councilmember Ulrich, is running on the ballot line of the Common Sense Party for the special election for public advocate. Welcome.
Thank you, Ben, for having me.
So before we get to your public advocate candidacy, talk a little bit about the highlights of your tenure in the City Council so far. What do you want voters to know about what you've accomplished?
Well, I've represented a great community in Southwest Queens, a great district, a lot of blue-collar, working-class families, cops, firemen, teachers, construction workers, and a very large South Asian immigrant population, predominantly from Guyana and Trinidad and other West Indian countries. The thing that I am most proud of, I think, is the work that we've done around veterans issues. And that's something that I want to highlight in this campaign. And if I'm elected the next public advocate, I'd love to, definitely take that to the next level. We wrote and passed a law that established the New York City Department of Veteran Services to serve more than 200,000 former service members and their families in all 5 boroughs in every community from every background. We're very proud that New York is now leading the way in how we help veterans transition back into civilian life, and even for some of our older veterans, how they're able to afford to stay in the city, I think, is terribly important. So the veterans issues, I love veterans. We've done a lot of great work with senior citizens, getting the senior centers up and running and making sure that we help seniors stay in their apartments, and we've been very helpful with getting them some legal representation. So, I've done a lot. My district was impacted by Hurricane Sandy. We're still dealing with a lot of those issues. I know that the rest of the city may not be fully aware that that's still going on, but the build-it-back issues and the resiliency and recovery issues are still very much a part of the daily life for a lot of the people that I represent.
So over the course of your tenure, it's overlapped a bit now with Mayor de Blasio's tenure as mayor. There's been a lot of partnership between the City Council and the mayor. The City Council is dominated by Democrats. Are there things that have gone through over the last few years that you're proud of, that you voted yes on? You sometimes are voting no on things. Sometimes you're in agreement with the rest of the majority in the council. Are there things that you're proud of over the last few years? And what are a couple of things that you were sorry to see go through, or sorry to see funded, or whatever it might be?
Right. I think that under this mayor, the city has experienced a skyrocketing homelessness population. People see it I just took the subway here. On every subway car and every street corner, we see the unfortunate reality that there are more than 10,000 men, women, and children sleeping in the shelter system tonight than the day Mayor de Blasio took office. That's not something that I think anyone should be proud of. I think the fact that the budget has ballooned to over $90 billion compared to $69 billion when Mayor Bloomberg was in office. The mayor has not been a steward of the taxpayers' money the way that I would have liked to see. Sure, UPK is great. I applaud him for UPK. I think it's a wonderful initiative. As a parent, I think it's wonderful that parents across the city now have that. But UPK is really not universal because it's not in all communities, and it's not serving every part of the city. And I think that's a very fair critique, is that the wait list is so long in some parts of the city. So I don't know that it was planned as well as it should have been, or executed as well as it should have been. But there are a lot of areas where the mayor and I have disagreed. We will continue to disagree. He wants to close Rikers Island. I think that's downright dangerous. I think that's a bad idea. But then there's a handful of things that I appreciate him doing. When he signed the Veterans Bill into law, that was great. When he rolled out UPK, I think anything to help working families is a good thing. But we don't really see eye to eye on a lot. That is really what sets me apart from the other candidates in this race, is that all of them have endorsed the mayor in the past, supported the mayor in the past, been a part of the mayor's progressive agenda. I'm the outlier in the race, and I'm the one saying I'm going to stand up to the mayor because I don't agree with him on everything, and I think the rest of the city doesn't agree with him on everything.
Right. You're sort of pitching your candidacy as the best candidate to hold the mayor accountable. As you said, I'll say a number of the candidates in the race. There are a few maybe who haven't endorsed him, but certainly a lot of the elected officials who are in the race. How would you do that? What does that look like? If you're elected public advocate, are there certain issues you want to drill in on? Is there a way that you set up the office that will best hold the mayoral administration accountable? What does it look like?
That's a great question. I think fundamentally the next public advocate has to be someone who is willing to stand up to the mayor and not worry about the political ramifications. The mayor and I are not from the same political party. I think that's apparent. People know that. And I think if you were to ask Bill de Blasio, who is the last person that you would want to be the next public advocate, there's no doubt in my mind that he would say it's me. So if people are looking for someone who is going to be a genuine, independent check on the mayor, well, then I'm their candidate. If they love Bill de Blasio, they like the direction of the city, they like the conditions in NYCHA, they like the crumbling subway system and the inadequate bus service, if they like the fact that he wants to close Rikers Island, if they like all the things that he's announcing, then they have other candidates to choose from, because all of them are on board with that agenda. You know,
well,
almost
they're
entirely.
on board with crumbling subways, but
I haven't seen them chirp up any. Look, now that they're running for public advocate, it's great that they say they want to be a check on the mayor. Where were some of these people who were in the assembly or in the city council in particular saying, you know, we need to hold the mayor accountable? It's the mayor's fault that NYCHA is in deplorable state of disrepair. It's the mayor's fault that he can't get along with the governor and they can't come up with a solution or a funding mechanism for the MTA. It's the mayor's fault that there are 10,000 more men, women, and children in the homeless shelter system. No one is putting the blame at the mayor's feet except me. I'm the one saying this is the things that the mayor does have control over. But instead, he's in Iowa, he's in New Hampshire, he's running for president. Enough is enough already.
So let's talk about some solutions on that front. Well, let me come back to the question. What does it look like for you? If you are calling him to task on some of those things, are you someone who favors policy reports? Are you someone who favors the press conference outside the building? You know, what does it look like?
We will use every tool at our disposal to call him out and at times to publicly shame him when necessary. When the mayor is standing in a cornfield in Iowa and people don't have heat or hot water in their apartments in the Sotomayor houses in the Bronx, someone needs to go on television and say, this is not right. Something is wrong with the picture here. And I think that using the bully pulpit as effectively as I can to draw the mayor physically back into the city to tend to the day-to-day affairs of the city, I think is very important. It's very valuable. And that's something that I offer the voters in this election that no one else, quite frankly, would offer them.
So on some of these issues, let's say with NYCHA, you've mentioned it a couple of times, what's the path forward? It's almost like things are in such a terrible state and the need is so great. I don't know that there's a lot of great answers. The mayor has put forward yet another new plan in December, NYCHA 2.0 he calls it. And I don't know where you stand on this, so I want to ask you, it calls for a lot more infill development on underused NYCHA land to bring in revenue, to let developers lease the land, some market rate, some affordable housing, revenue goes into NYCHA to try to get to this billions and billions of need. Is that an answer to you? Is it more federal funding? What does it look like?
I think that there is no silver bullet fix to the problems at NYCHA. This is decades of mismanagement and underinvestment. Quite frankly, the mayor's been MIA on this issue. And when he's not been MIA, he's been covering up or throwing other people under the bus, to talk about the lead poisoning, for instance. You know, falsifying the inspection reports. It's downright criminal. I feel like if there was any other mayor in office and that happened, they'd be in jail right now. The U.S. attorney would be indicting them for violation of people's rights. The answer to NYCHA, I think, and the path forward for them is a substantial federal partnership, not just oversight. Yes, it's great that we now have an independent monitor, and I applaud HUD for actually putting someone who's going to be independent to watch over these necessary repairs and the reforms that need to take place. That's a good thing, but reform and oversight and independence mean nothing if there's not money behind it. So we need a ton, we know, billions and billions of dollars in federal money, but and federal and state money, quite frankly. But also what I think is needed moving forward to make sure that we never get to this point again, which is equally important, is a public-private partnership. We have some of the best property management companies in the world that could mop the floors, paint the hallways, make elevator repairs faster, cheaper than any government agency or any government contractor. Quite frankly, whatever we're doing is not working. People are living in cold and in squalor, and it's not right. And the only way forward, I think, is a public-private partnership, and that involves engaging the real estate community in the city. And I think that is the only way to move forward in a way that allows us to avoid the situation.
And it sounds like some of the mayor's more recently announced plans are heading in some of that direction with the RAD program.
The difference, though, Ben, is I would make it an open and transparent process. The mayor wants to reward all of his political donors with some of these contracts. And if you look at the people that are involved in some of these discussions, and you've obviously foiled some of the lobbyists and the people who are involved in this issue, they're all donors to the mayor. And this is just another part of the culture of corruption and the pay-to-play that exists when you have a lame duck mayor in his last term who wants to be president. We need someone to hold him accountable.
The budget you mentioned has grown very quickly under this mayor. His latest budget proposal is for $92.2 billion for the next fiscal year. Yeah. Are there areas of the budget that you know are bloated? Are there programs you know need to go?
Absolutely. I mean, there is so much waste and fraud in the system. And I think, you know, I have to tip my hat to Scott Stringer because he and his staff do an excellent job.
City controller.
The city controller, Scott Stringer, to be clear. They do an excellent job, really just probing these individual agencies. But there is so much waste and so much spending going on. Look at the Department of Education. I'm for education. I don't think anybody's against improving public schools. But when you have tens of millions of dollars in no-bid contracts going out, and they're approved in the middle of the night, and they're bringing on these consultants to tell people what we already know, which is, you know, we need to invest more money into the classroom and into professional development and into actually like improving enrichment programs, things that actually help move the bar a little bit higher for our kids and help them achieve their full potential. But we're spending, you know, money on consultants to tell us what color we should paint the bathroom walls, and you know what plants to put on the green. It's insane. It's insane. Someone has to hold the mayor accountable, but also, as you point out, these agencies, and in the budget, line by line, me and my staff, we will be able to scrutinize the budget, I think, better than anybody else, almost as good as the controller. But we will call him out on it, and we will list them. We'll blow them up on a billboard, and we will list them on the steps of City Hall, and we will demand an explanation, because it's not the government's money, Ben, it's the taxpayers' money. The mayor spends money like a drunken sailor because it's not his money. It's the taxpayers' money.
So in our last few minutes, let's touch on a couple other things. One, you say we can't close down Rikers Island and build borough jails.
Community jails.
Community jails. It makes communities less safe.
I'm the only one
who's opposed to that. Is there evidence of that? Because there are already community jails in the city. There's a couple jails that are functioning, downtown Brooklyn, Manhattan. I don't know of any recent incidents with those jails.
I believe that the population at Rikers is so high and so densely populated at the current population that to shut it down and then sprinkle these people who are temporarily detained or people who have been sentenced for less than 1 year. There are those individuals who are being incarcerated there, let's be fair. And those are people that are convicted. That came up in a debate the other night. So they're criminals. I am not for putting criminals in the heart of residential communities in places like Kew Gardens or in Brooklyn or in Bronx, okay, or in Manhattan for that matter, to pose a threat to the general public. Rikers Island exists on Rikers Island for a reason, because it is the place where we are able to, as a city, in the most reasonable way, detain people who are awaiting trial, people who have been arrested for violent crimes or serious crimes, or for people who have been convicted and are sentenced to less than 1 year confinement, imprisonment. So the people that say, oh, we want to close Rikers Island, you know what? Yes, conditions at Rikers Island are bad. Rikers Island absolutely is a hellhole. Let's fix it, let's renovate it, let's rebuild it, but let's not shut the place down and then build community jails in residential neighborhoods. That is not the right answer. The mayor, by the way, very quickly, this is exactly the mayor's MO. We have a skyrocketing homelessness population, and instead of the mayor saying, you know what, we have to reduce the number of men, women, and children who are sleeping in a shelter system, his answer is build more shelters. We're going to build 90 more shelters. That would be like saying, you know what, crime is up, let's build more jails. No, we've got to reduce crime. We've got to reduce the population at Rikers. We've got to reduce homelessness in the city. This is just common sense. That's the whole theme of the campaign.
Quick question to follow up on that, and then a final one. Do you support the bail reform discussion that's going on, where most folks accused of nonviolent offenses would not be kept
the
detained?
Cash bail, people who are poor, who were smoking pot in Central Park and they didn't have ID on them, and they're in Rikers now because they couldn't afford bail. They should not be detained on Rikers Island. Rikers Island is a dangerous place. Every other day there's a corrections officer who's being slashed in the face. Inmates are getting brutally assaulted. It is a very dangerous, scary place. I would hate to see that close and then bring that to 4 out of the 5 boroughs. But if we can reduce the population at Rikers by criminal justice reform, bail reform, ending cash bail, I'm all for that. Let's have an honest discussion about who is being detained at Rikers Island. But let's not shut it down. That's downright dangerous.
What do you say to New Yorkers who say, you know, I like the common sense things this candidate is saying, but you know, he's a Republican. I don't like where the Republican Party is at right now. I know you've been having to address that for some time, but what's your brief answer on that?
Well, the brief answer is this. I am a moderate Republican. I've always been an independent. I'm socially liberal, fiscally conservative. I support a woman's right to choose. I supported marriage equality before the Supreme Court did. This is all a matter of public record. And the public advocate has nothing to do with Donald Trump. So people who are trying to say, oh, he's a member of the Republican Party, Trump is in the White House, he's bad for the city. If that's your issue, I get it. But the job of the public advocate is not to stand up to the President of the United States. It's to stand up to the mayor. And this election is not a referendum on Donald Trump. It's a referendum on Bill de Blasio. And this election in particular is a nonpartisan election. So there are no party labels on the ballot. You won't be able to go vote and say, I'm voting for the Democrat. There are 15 Democrats running, and none of them have Democrat next to their name.
And if you win this special election, you have to stand for re-election pretty quickly after that. Would you plan to do that?
Absolutely.
And if successful, would you plan to run for mayor in 2021?
I don't know why not. People who said that they're not thinking of running for mayor, they're lying. I think I'm the only one who's being honest in this campaign, in this race. People said, if you run and if you win and you pull a tremendous upset, will you run for mayor? You better believe I'm going to run for mayor. That's what I said, and I stand by it.
Very good. All right, Eric Ulrich, we'll leave it there. Thank you. Good to talk with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay.